Well, how's it going today, folks? I'm Braap and welcome back to the Braap Shack. Today we are going to be assembling an 800 PTEK. And that's about it. Let's take a look. So, customer brought in this machine. Not this machine, sorry. They brought in just the engine. It was complete. And they wanted me to do a welfare check on their crankshaft. They knew that the top end was blown up, but they just wanted to know if this was a sturdy enough base to rebuild or to split the case, buy a crank, you know. So it came in, it was complete. I pulled it apart. These are the pistons that came out of it. There's the bad side. Pretty bad, but there's no significant amounts of missing material. So that's usually one good sign when you're talking about reusing a crank. If you got half the piston missing, there's a good chance that that shit ended up down in your crankshaft. No good. Okay? This one, it just got hot and low on coolant or something, or low on oil. I don't know, but she got hot, definitely, and fucked this piston up. Other side, not too bad. So anyway, I pulled her apart. Crank seems fine. I can't find any significant play or wear or any noise at all. It's super smooth, nice, rotates nice and smooth, and so I don't see any problem with building on that crank. Sometime in the very near future, we need to get this crank re-isoflexed and sealed back up, because we don't know when it was last done. It'd be nice to do it now, but I forgot to mention it, and we are weeks away from something such as a seal. So we're building an engine today, and we'll isoflex it in the machine at a later date. This is the original cylinder head, or cylinders, monoblock. The entire engine looked like that, but worse. It had fuzzies and oil and just caca all over it, so everything got cleaned last night. I cleaned the entire bottom end here, nice and clean. Cleaned all the parts, disassembled the rave valve. Everything's been cleaned. So we're going to start assembling here right away. We have a brand new monoblock, nice and clean. We'll recheck it one more time, blow it out, and wipe it down one last time. We have new Wiseco single ring pistons. Nice piston, nice looking piston. I don't quite understand why someone would have a preference as to which side this should live in. Technically, both pistons have the same part numbers, so from a manufacturing standpoint, they are identical. So, what? I don't care. Somebody thinks that this needs to be the mag side, so that's going to be the mag side. I don't care, whatever. Look at this spiffy bag. It's made of suede. It's a nice fucking bag. Got a gasket set. We are going to RTV put a light coat of RTV on the mating surfaces between the bellows and the rave housing and the rave cap. So we are going to use a little bit of RTV there. Some people do, some people don't. I do. We're going to use a little bit of Loctite on the recoil basket bolts, the starter bolts, and the stator cover housing screws. And I believe that should be about enough chin wagging for now. We're going to get this up on the bench. First thing I'm going to do off camera, before I turn the camera back on, I'm going to open this, and I'm going to be gasket tacking a couple of these gaskets, mainly the power valve gaskets, exhaust gaskets. So You don't have to, but I do it. So yeah, hang tight and I'll flip this back on and we will build an engine. Okay, so we got one power valve in, and now I'll show you a couple little tricks to make your power valve assembly go much easier. One thing being, I learned this one quite a few years ago. My girlfriend had an 800 PTEK. A 2-inch piece of ABS, plumbing ABS, will make installing your large springs very easy. If you don't want to do this 12 times, remember, gaskets first thing. Okay? So, anyway, here, I'll show you. We'll do this other one. Right here. Okay. So your first seal to go in, one of them's got a completely flat side. That's your second one. The first one looks like this when you're putting it in the hole. You can lube them up if you want. They're very flimsy, so especially the first one, kind of shove it down in there with your finger. I like to take a small screwdriver, just make sure it's in there nice and square. Next one, make sure it's flat side facing out. Same thing, these are real easy to put in. Put it in there, make sure it's all the way down, all the way around. There you go. Okay. Now, the next thing that I do is I take a little bit of assembly lube, just a drop on either wing, and a little bit here in the middle. Drop, drop, and that's it. Just a fucking smidge, you know what I mean? Oh shit. Just a little bit on there. No, so now this guy goes on there. Now wiggle it back and forth a little bit, make it stay where you want it. So now we're going to take a little bit red RTV and we're going to put it around this wide edge here. See this wide edge? Put it here before the groove. I always like to get this in before you put the bellow on so that you can see your seal. Make sure that you didn't flip it, pushing the shaft through. Okay. Now, when you take your bellow and you put it on here, it's going to push all that back to where you actually wanted it. Okay. Now is when I take and I put just a little bit around the outside. You don't gotta fill the groove, you just need to put enough in there that you can see it. If you can see it, that's enough. The spring makes a hell of a seal. This is just a little bit, you know, I'm pretty sure from factory they do put that white stuff in there, white sealant. Don't forget your spring. Okay. Now just get it finger tight, just till it stops. Okay. Now you're going to hold your guillotine, get you a 10 mil, snug it up. Remember, plastic threads, don't fuck around, get carried away. Now you're just going to flip. Just about to knock you over. You're just going to flip up onto, shove your fingers under there. Okay. Now we're here. Okay. Everything's nice and tight. So now the next thing is where struggling usually comes into play. This spring is a fucking cocksucker. Okay, so what I do is first I'll put it on my piece 2-inch ABS, which even this alone is easier said than done. Just getting it on here is a bitch. Okay, and as I said that, it went super easy and smooth. Anyway, once you're on there, take that guy, line it up. If you're not lined up properly, you're gonna know, because it'll just fall off. Okay, and then just roll it off. Oh, see? Not lined up. That's what happens. So we'll do it again. But even if you gotta do that 5 times, it's still better than the fuck around trying to get this thing on there by hand. Trust me, I've done it. But usually, this will work on first or second try. No hesitation, just line it up nice and straight. And then just flip it off the edge nice and quick. And that's it. Fuck around. Well, 3rd time, I guess. I'm sure there's probably a tool for this, actually. But this is how I've done it. I've always known that this may not work the first time, but this is fucking near free. Line it up. Bam. Perfect. Okay. So now all we have left, these couple springs right here. So you got your movable sheath pointing up. Okay. It's kind of counterintuitive. It's not the way that you would think that it would go when you look at the dude. You would think that it would go a different way, but it does not. There we go. Power valve's done. There's probably a torque spec for these. My torque spec is their little bolts, take it easy. And if you're wondering, that gold gasket tack that I use, it is extreme high temp stuff. It says right on it that it's recommended for exhaust flange gaskets and other such high temperature applications. So if for any reason you were wondering, people wonder some weird things sometimes, you know? And now you can save this step for last, or whatever you want to do, whatever fucking, you know, procedure you would like to take. That's fine for you. I'm just doing this here because it's easy, and I can, and I know it's not going to interfere with anything that I have to do. I should still have no problems getting this in and out of the machine, and it was brought to me like this, so I got it out. Alright, so there we are. Now we have us some exhaust on there. Flip them around. I suppose at some point right away here, maybe like now, we can set our ring gap. Okay, I've done this before on the channel, but we'll do it again. Okay, so since this piston here is already marked for mag side, we'll use this ring, mag side ring. Now these rings, like most wise coat, yeah, it says top. So if you haven't figured that out, top goes up towards the top. Okay. Two-stroke, I go about an inch down. Okay. And now we're looking for a ring gap of 15 to 23 thousandths. So let's see what we got. We've got a fairly sizable gap. You see that? So let's measure it and see what it is. Oh, it's sprayed. Watch your eyes, guys. 15 to 23. So let's go. There's 15. Okay, so we have our 15. So we know we're not going to have to file, but just for shit and giggle, let's measure it out. Okay, so that we at least know there's 16 thousandths. It's pretty snug. The next one is 18. 18 don't want to go. Okay, so we're good. We've got 16 thousandths. No filing involved. Now, if that number was smaller than our tolerance is 15 to 23 thousandths. If that was, say, 12 thousandths, we'd have to file it a little bit until we get within our range. Because too small of a gap, your ring is going to bottom out on itself. It's going to bind up and it's going to blow up your cylinder. So make sure you're within your tolerance. So let's pull this guy out of there. And we'll put it with its piston. And let's check the other one. Because not only do you want, not only are you looking for your allowed tolerance, but you are also looking for, you want some consistency, right? So you're also looking for some consistency. You don't want one being 16 and one being 20. You know what I mean? And I mean, that would probably be alright, but you want consistency. So once again, we've got a decent-ish gap. Remember, other side we were 16 thousandths. So let's take our small 15. 15 fits, so we're not filing. Let's go 16. Perfect, 16. So once again, 18 is not gonna fit. Yeah, so both cylinders are about, well, not about, they're exactly 16 thousandths. So that would lead me to believe that possibly, because this whole package came from Recluse, they may have already set ring gap. But don't ever take for granted that your ring gap is set. Don't ever assemble an engine without checking it. You have to well, you can do whatever the fuck you want, I guess, but if your tolerances are too tight, you're gonna blow up. It's just that simple. So now that we have that all together, what we can do is I'm gonna get you set up here with the camera. Actually no. Let's do it right now. We're going to ring this piston. Now, you do whatever you want to do. If you've seen any of my engine building videos, you know that this is gonna happen. I ain't worried about what you think. Put just a smidge. You know what I mean? Just a smidge. That's all it takes. Yeah. The top. Now remember, 2 strokes have a pin, because you can't have this ring gap wandering over to the intake port, right? So this is how. Start one side. Okay, get it nice and flat, and then just walk it around. Just like that. Easy peasy. Move it around, flex it a little bit. There you go. Now, there's going to be some assembly lube on the outside of the piston. If you've seen any of my engine videos, you know I'm going to even put more before this son of a bitch goes into the machine. Around. Make sure your goo gets everywhere. Hey there. So now I'm gonna get the base gasket thrown on, and then I'll get you set up somewhere to peep this a little better. Hang tight. Okay. So from your perspective, this mag side, this PTO side. This is the front of the engine with the exhaust. Your pistons have an arrow on them. Arrow points to exhaust. So let's do mag side first. I've already put assembly lube on the bearing. There's already a little bit of assembly lube in the connecting rod and on the wrist pin, and there's assembly lube everywhere. Now, always put one of your circlips in beforehand for a stop, and then now you can severely struggle with the other one. Unless you have a circlip installer. Pretty sure I say this every single time I gotta put in a circlip. But one of these days, I'm gonna get a circlip tool. But once again, that day is not today. So some people have their tricks. I find every application's a little bit different, so sometimes, you know, pliers will work, sometimes you can put them in by hand, such as I'm doing right now. You might need a little bit of help from a screwdriver. Be very careful. You are dealing with the side of your piston. There we go. Now, before we get too far, for fuck's sakes, sometimes your base gasket doesn't fit around your fucking piston. I probably should have mentioned that beforehand. We probably should have already checked this. I don't think we're going to have any problems on this engine. But just a heads up, I have come across some engines where I've got pistons on the rods, and then I couldn't fucking put the gasket on. I had to take the pistons back off the rods. So just be aware of that. Okay. Also, if somebody puts masking tape on top of your piston, remove it before you run the engine. Just a little tip. But yeah, these here circlips going real nice. Put it in round end first. A little squeeze and a push. Lay it over on the side. Push one in there. There you go. There we go. Now, this is generally where it's nice to have a little bit of help. You can have somebody, you know, lower it down for you, especially when you're dealing with monoblock. But I'm just a lone dude out here, so I guess we'll fucking see. Okay? We'll see how this goes. But I think too close now. So we'll go like that. Now that these are permanently in their homes, we can pull that off of there. Now, like I said, the only thing that I can imagine about this fucking tape here is that somebody's gone ahead and done ring gap already. That's the only thing I can think of. The only reason why they would designate one side to the other. So just one more time, I'm going to blow this out. So now, what we're going to do, make sure our ring stays where it's supposed to. We're going to come down slowly on top of this one, and then I'm going to compress that ring with my fingers, slide it up in the bore. Then we roll over the engine as we slowly come down onto the second piston. Okay? Sound like a fucking plan to you, boys? Back side like that. There's one. From the back back side, there's 2. And bam, just like a fucking guy knew what he was doing or something. There's conflicting information. Everybody, they don't know whether or not they should Loctite cylinder bolts. You don't have to. If you're going to, use blue so that it's removable. And in that sense, it's like a lube on its way in, and it makes sure that they just don't loosen up over time on their own. Okay? But you can still take it apart later. I know I said earlier I wasn't going to lock these, but apparently I fucking lied to you. You're going to want to start in the middle and work your way out in a circular pattern. 37 foot-pounds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to snug on the first one. Then I'll go to snug on the second one. I'll work my way out. Snug. 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 Oh, fucking watch yourself. Let's go back to number 1. There we go. Now, let's just roll it over. We're putting that assembly lube all over the cylinders. Now, I'm going to grab these 2 little rubber O-rings that came with the kit. Lay them in there. Those are combustion chamber seals. Or in this case, they'd be taking the place of a gasket. Here's our water jacket seal. Right. There's no need to use any type of product on this. Just make sure it's nice and square inside of its groove. Make sure everything's all nice and straight. And make sure you put your head on backwards. Make sure you're nice and clean. Make sure you're nice and clean. Try not to move it around too much because you don't want to fuck up any of those gaskets. You're never going to see them again unless something bad happens. Okay, so first we're going 12 and 21. Okay? Now the book is going to tell you some in inch pounds. I think it's 139 or something. But fuck, I want to break out both torque wrenches or 2 torque wrenches to do something that 1 torque wrench can do. The first torque spec isn't really that important, right? All it's saying is that it doesn't want you, they don't want you to go all the way down to 21 in one go. That's all they're saying. Okay, so there's snug. Now we're going to we got our torque wrench set on our first torque spec, which is 12. I've had people comment, "Oh, why you fucking do that? Waste of time." Because I do, okay? There we go. I'm going to throw these spark plugs back in. There was nothing wrong with them. I cleaned them out real quick, but let's put them in there. I can come back through by hand, do the final tighten on them, or check them, make sure that they're all the same, nice and snug. If you're not comfortable with your impact, don't go running in screws all willy-nilly. You'll strip out these fucking little threads faster than you know how to fix them. So, just beware. I'm a fucking professional. Hey then. So, we got this shit here left to do. Now, the only reason why this flywheel bolt nut is off is because I wanted to take it off to clean inside of it. But as John reminded me, I loaned out my flywheel puller. And I never got it back. Torque spec here is Loctite. I don't fucking know. Tight. Just Loctite. Loctite and tight, and then that's it. That's good enough. There we go. One last trick. Silly rabbit tricks for kids. Just less than stripped is the perfect fucking. Just the perfect torque for that. Just less than stripped. Alrighty, guys. So. There we go. She's complete. This is, well, I gotta throw the cable, the oil cable back on, but this is how she came in. Here we go. I got all the orifices plugged off. We're all nice and clean, fully assembled. Ready for the owner to come and pick her up and slap her in the machine. So there we go. That's yeah. She's nice and greasy and ready to go. So that's gonna be it for this one. Until next time, have a gooder, folks.